So you've decided to start creating webinars for your business, but you're concerned. You're concerned about how you're going to be able to hold your audience's attention even when you're not in the same room as them. And let's face it, it's a real challenge because speaking virtually is a lot more difficult, a lot more challenging than speaking in person because you have no idea what the person is doing on the other side of the camera. So how do you hold their attention and make your webinar extremely engaging? Well, that's what we're going to cover today. I want to share with you 3 key strategies which have helped me massively in my own webinars, and I'm confident they can help you too. The first strategy is to make your window active. What do I mean by window? What I mean is the window, the image that your camera or webcam is able to capture. So right now, this square which you're looking at is my window. And it's important that I make this window as active as I possibly can. Presentations online get really boring when there's zero activity. If I'm not moving around, I'm staying very still and static, that is when boredom sets in. So we need to make sure that we avoid that at all costs. And there's a few simple ways in which you can do that. The first one is simply by gesturing during your online presentation. Use your hands while you're talking a lot more. Even move around a little bit if it seems right for you. You can even, if you like, stand up. Standing can be really good because it allows you to use your body language a lot more and keep the window even more active. However, when you do stand up, make sure that you lift the level of your camera as well so that it is in eye line with you. You don't want your camera to be lower than you because then that way your attendees will be able to see up your nose. And we don't want that. Even if you're using a PowerPoint in your webinar, you can keep that screen active by hopping in and out of the PowerPoint. This involves you spending a little bit of time showing the slides as the main part of your Zoom call and then exiting that PowerPoint to then show you again to explain it further. And hopping in and out changes the screen and keeps it very active. The second strategy I have for you is to make your webinar very interactive. What do I mean by that? I mean getting your audience, your virtual audience, physically involved in your presentation. You see, by asking your audience questions, by giving them short activities to do in groups, in breakout rooms even, or to give them the opportunity to actually present in your webinar, it breaks up the dynamic of the audience just listening to you. It creates more variety in your presentation. And we know through variety leads to greater engagement. And that's what you want to look to do in your webinar. You want to try and make it as an engaging experience as possible. And by bringing your audience in to your webinar, by getting them physically involved, they have to be engaged. And that will disconnect them from any distractions in their environment and will bring them straight in to the virtual environment you are creating. Now, with that said, it can be quite challenging to make webinars interactive to avoid confusion or chaos descending. So if you'd like advice on how to do this in your webinars, I'm happy to make another video about that. Simply comment below saying that you'd like that to happen and I'll get that video out next. My third strategy for you is to focus on what your audience wants to hear. I think as presenters, we can be guilty of this, can't we? We think about what we want to share with our audience. We think about the presentations we want to create instead of thinking about what our audience wants to hear. But it really is critical for in terms of engagement, because if you're covering information which is not relevant to your audience, they're going to switch off. So how do you do this? How do you figure out what your audience wants to hear? Well, it's quite simple, actually. You just ask them. Before your webinar, before your presentation, send out an email to your attendees asking them, what do you specifically want to cover in this webinar? Then take all of those answers, often you get quite a lot of the same responses, and then create your presentation around those answers, around what your audience wants to hear. This will give you the best chance possible of keeping them engaged because you will be covering content which is completely relevant to them, and they'll be focused all the time because they want to get as many golden nuggets as possible. Each week, I post new videos about webinars, about presenting, about public speaking. If you enjoy this content, please subscribe to my channel and you'll catch those videos every single week with lots of top tips. But as always, I wish you the very best in your next webinar.